July 20th, 1944. Berlin, Germany. It was a hot summer day, and the Second World War was not going well for Germany. But something even more dramatic was about to happen. Something that would change the course of history in just a few hours. On this day, a group of German officers tried to kill Adolf Hitler and take over the government. They almost succeeded. Almost. But one man stood in their way. His name was Otto Remer, and this is his incredible story. Who was Otto Remer? Otto Remer was born on August 18, 1912, in a small town in Germany. He grew up during difficult times. Germany had just lost World War I, and the country was struggling. Young Otto was a patriotic boy who loved his homeland. Like many young Germans of his time, he believed in serving his country with honor. Remer joined the German army in the 1930s. He was a good soldier, brave, disciplined, and loyal. When World War II started in 1939, Remer fought on the front lines. He was not sitting safely behind a desk. He was there in the mud, the cold, and the danger, fighting alongside his men. By 1944, Remer had become a major. He had proven himself in battle many times. He had been wounded in combat and received medals for his bravery. His superiors respected him, and his soldiers trusted him. He was the kind of officer who led from the front, not from the back. In July 1944, Remer had a very important job. He was the commander of the Grossdeutschland Guard Battalion in Berlin. This sounds complicated, but it was actually quite simple. Remer and his soldiers were responsible for protecting the government district in Berlin, the capital city of Germany. They guarded important buildings and kept order in the city. This position would soon put Remer at the center of one of the most dramatic events of World War II. What was Operation Valkyrie? Before we talk about what Remer did, we need to understand what Operation Valkyrie was. By 1944, many German officers knew the war was lost. The Allies were winning on all fronts. The Soviet Red Army was pushing from the east. The British and Americans had landed in France and were pushing from the west. German cities were being bombed day and night. Millions of people were dying. Some officers in the German military decided they had to do something. They wanted to kill Hitler, make peace with the Allies, and save Germany from total destruction. These officers were not cowards. Many of them were brave men who had fought for their country. But they believed Hitler was leading Germany to disaster. The leader of this plot was Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg. He was an aristocrat, a brave soldier who had been badly wounded in Africa. He had lost an eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left hand. Despite his injuries, Stauffenberg remained in service and eventually got a position where he could attend meetings with Hitler. The conspirators had a plan. It was called Operation Valkyrie. Here's how it was supposed to work. Step 1. Kill Hitler with a bomb during a military meeting. Step 2. Once Hitler was dead, use the German army's own emergency plan, which was actually called Valkyrie, to take control of Germany. This plan was originally designed to protect Germany if something went wrong at home, but the conspirators wanted to use it for their coup. Step 3. Arrest all of Hitler's closest followers, including the SS Hitler's Special Security Force and the Gestapo, the secret police. Step 4. Make peace with the Allies and save Germany. It was a bold plan. But it had one big problem. Everything depended on Hitler actually being dead. If Hitler survived, the whole plan would fall apart. On the morning of July 20th, 1944, Colonel Stauffenberg flew to a place called the Wolf's Lair in East Prussia. This was Hitler's military headquarters, hidden deep in the forest. Stauffenberg was carrying a bomb in his briefcase. During the military conference, Stauffenberg placed his briefcase under the table, close to Hitler. Then he made an excuse to leave the room. A few minutes later, at 12:42 p.m., the bomb exploded. The explosion was huge. It destroyed the room. 4 people were killed. Many others were injured. Stauffenberg, who was outside when the bomb went off, saw the destroyed building and was sure Hitler was dead. He quickly left the Wolf's Lair and flew back to Berlin to start the coup. But here's the thing. Hitler was not dead. He was injured. His eardrums were damaged, his arm was hurt, and his clothes were torn. But he was very much alive. Someone had moved Stauffenberg's briefcase to the other side of a heavy table leg just before the explosion. That thick wooden table leg saved Hitler's life. However, Stauffenberg didn't know this. He thought Hitler was dead, and so did the other conspirators in Berlin. So they started Operation Valkyrie. The conspirators make their move. Back in Berlin, the conspirators started putting their plan into action. They sent out orders to army units all over Germany and occupied Europe. These orders said that Hitler was dead, that the SS had tried to take over the government, and that the army needed to arrest all SS members and take control. Remember, the regular army and the SS didn't always get along. The SS was Hitler's special organization, and they often had more power than regular army officers. Many army officers didn't like the SS. So when these officers received orders to arrest the SS, some of them were actually quite happy to do it. Around 4 p.m., Major Otto Remer received his orders. A general named Paul von Hase, who was part of the conspiracy, called Remer to his office. Von Hase told Remer that Hitler was dead and that the SS was trying to take over the government. Von Hase ordered Remer to take his soldiers and seal off the government district in Berlin. He was to arrest anyone from the SS who tried to resist. Remer was also told to guard important buildings and make sure the conspirators could take control of the government. Remer was shocked by the news, but he was a soldier. He followed orders, he gathered his troops and started carrying out his mission, the phone call that changed everything. Remer and his soldiers began setting up roadblocks and guarding buildings. Everything seemed to be going according to the conspirators' plan, but then something unexpected happened. One of Remer's officers was a lieutenant named Hans Hagen. Hagen was a member of the Nazi Party and had connections to Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister. Hagen became suspicious. Why were they being ordered to arrest the SS? Why hadn't they heard any official announcement about Hitler's death? Hagen told Remer about his concerns. Remer started to have doubts too. As a loyal officer, Remer wanted to be absolutely sure he was doing the right thing. After all, if Hitler was really dead, they should follow the new orders. But if Hitler was alive, they would be committing treason. Hagen suggested they contact Goebbels to find out what was really happening. Goebbels was not only propaganda minister, but also the Nazi Party leader in Berlin. He would know the truth. This was a dangerous decision. If Hitler was really dead and the conspirators' orders were legitimate, then contacting a Nazi Party official like Goebbels could ruin everything. But if Hitler was alive, then they needed to know immediately. Around 6:30 p.m., Remer went to Goebbels' office. It was one of the most important moments in modern history, though Remer probably didn't realize it at the time. Goebbels was in his office when Remer arrived. The propaganda minister was clever and suspicious. He had already received confusing reports about what was happening. When Remer explained the situation, Goebbels immediately suspected a coup. Then Goebbels did something brilliant. He picked up the phone and called Hitler's headquarters. After a few minutes, he got through. Hitler himself came to the phone. Goebbels handed the phone to Remer. Can you imagine that moment? Remer, a young major, suddenly found himself talking to Adolf Hitler on the phone. And Hitler was very much alive. Hitler's voice was unmistakable. He spoke to Remer directly. He told Remer that he had survived an assassination attempt and that there was a conspiracy against him. Hitler then gave Remer direct orders. Remer was to crush the coup. He was to arrest anyone involved in the conspiracy. Hitler even promoted Remer on the spot, making him a colonel and giving him command of all troops in Berlin for this emergency. For Remer, this phone call changed everything. He now knew with absolute certainty that Hitler was alive and that he had been deceived. The orders he had received from General von Hase were part of a conspiracy. Remer had a choice to make, and he made it quickly. After the phone call, Remer immediately switched sides. He was no longer helping the conspirators. He was going to stop them. Remer was an effective officer. He quickly organized his troops and explained the situation. His soldiers, who had been setting up roadblocks to help the coup, now turned their weapons against the conspirators. Within hours, Remer and his men surrounded the Bendler block, the military headquarters building where Stauffenberg and the other conspirators were organizing the coup. Other loyal officers joined Remer. By late evening, they had surrounded the building completely. Inside the Bendler block, the conspirators realized their plan was falling apart. When Hitler's survival was announced on the radio, many officers who had been helping the coup changed their minds. Some officers inside the building even turned against Stauffenberg and his colleagues. Around midnight, there was a brief shootout inside the Bendler block. Stauffenberg was wounded, but the resistance quickly collapsed. The coup was over. In the early hours of July 21st, Stauffenberg and 3 other leaders of the conspiracy were taken to the courtyard of the Bendler block and shot. Other conspirators were arrested. Over the following months, hundreds of people connected to the plot were arrested, tortured, and executed. The coup had failed. Hitler was still in power. And Otto Remer was the man who had stopped it. Why did Remer do it? This is an important question. Why did Remer choose to stop the coup instead of helping it? There are several reasons. First, loyalty. Remer was a soldier who believed in following orders and being loyal to his commander. For him, Hitler was the supreme commander. When Hitler himself gave Remer orders on the phone, Remer felt he had to obey. Second, certainty. Remer wanted to be sure he was doing the right thing. When he heard Hitler's voice on the phone, he knew for certain that Hitler was alive. At that point, following the conspirators' orders would mean committing treason against a living head of state. After stopping the coup, Remer became a hero in Nazi Germany. Hitler personally thanked him and gave him more promotions. Within months, Remer went from major to general, an incredibly fast rise. Hitler trusted Remer completely after July 20th. Remer was given command of important combat units. He fought on the Eastern Front against the Soviet army in the final months of the war. He was known as a brave and effective commander who fought until the very end.